Okay, so video 2 for lesson 4.1, the word problem. It says Monisha and Holly have 14 more days to finish reading the same novel for class. Monisha plans to read 9 pages each day, while Holly plans to read 20 pages each day. Assuming Holly and Monisha both maintain their reading plan, when will Holly catch up with Monisha, and who will finish reading the novel first? So notice on the right-hand side, so for Monisha's library, she is on page 96 of 220, and for Holly, she is on page 6 of 220. So we can see Monisha's quite a bit further ahead. Okay, so this is a system of equations problem, so we need to write down our two systems. Now, this is going to be a Monisha equation, and then this will be a Holly equation. All right. Now, to decide how we're going to write these, we have to look at the problem in the numbers. So for Monisha, who I'll put in red, she reads 9 pages each day, and she is on page 96. So if I think about what x and y will represent, so remember that this 9 pages each day, when it has that word each or per, this is your slope, right? Remember that the slope is y per x. So in this case, our y is going to be pages. So again, how many pages we've read, and then our x is going to be the days. So the days of reading. So pages and days. So when we write these two equations, they're going to be in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So for Monisha, her slope, the m, so y equals, her m will be 9 pages, and then x for x days. And she is starting on page 96 right now. So plus 96, that's her starting point. For Holly, y equals, she reads 20 pages each day, so 20x, and she's starting on page 6. So you can see that Monisha's ahead, but Holly's going to read much faster to catch up. So I'm going to type these two equations into Desmos. We're going to play around with Desmos to get a good graph, and then we're going to talk about answering these two questions of when will Holly catch up and who will finish reading first. All right, so let's go to Desmos. Okay. So in Desmos here, I'm going to type in the first equation, y equals. So it was 9x plus 96. Now, this is a word problem, right? Word problems take place in the first quadrant. So in a second, we're going to move the scale, because for a word problem, we typically don't use the generic scale that Desmos gives us. Okay, so for the second equation, y equals 20x plus 6. Okay, so now let's come over here to this thing called the wrench. So this is the graph settings. We can now change the smallest and biggest x value to be shown on the picture, and the same thing with the y's. So if we think about what x is the number of days. So we can start at 0, because that would be 0 days. We're going to go to, now it says 14, right? It says that's 14 days. I'm going to go to, say, 20, just to give myself some room, okay? Now for the y-axis, again, this is the pages. So I'm going to start at 0, because a book starts with 0 pages. And then here, I'm going to put the total number of pages. So the total number is 220. So let's go up a little higher. Let's go to 250. And now if you click off that, you can now see a better picture. Now I like to click and drag a little bit just to see the x and y axis in black. So I want you to just give a sketch of that on your paper. So I'm going to do it too. Okay. So I'm going to use green for my axes, so I can use red and blue. So these are my axes here. So remember that the x-axis is days and the y-axis is pages. So for the first person, this is Monisha, right? She starts at 96. So if this goes up to 250, right? That goes to 250, and this goes to 20. So Monisha starts at 96, which is like right around here, right? And then she goes the black line, so she goes like this. Kind of a modest slope. Okay, and then Holly in blue, Holly starts at 6. So Holly is almost way down here at 0. But now she's going to read a lot faster like this. So this is Holly. So we take a look here. When is Holly going to catch up? So when it says when, we're looking for a number of days, which is our x value. So if I click on the graph, see that gray dot show up? Gives me coordinates. Now these are not pretty coordinates, but we'll deal with it. Let's round to the nearest tenth. So that's 8.2 and 1. Let's round this to the nearest whole number, and then 170. So I'm going to write down in purple That's my intersection point, right? Right here. So this is 8.2170. So the number of days is the x, 8.2. So I would accept 8 or 9. I don't really care, right? So Holly catches up in 8 to 9 days. So there's the answer to the first question. When will Holly catch up to Monisha? The second question is, who's going to finish first? Well, notice here, we're going to talk a little bit about this in topic 8, I think. If we compare these two graphs, notice that once Holly catches up to Monisha, then she just overtakes Monisha. Look at this, right? So 220 is like right here. So if we think about who hits 220 first, 220 is going to get hit right here by Holly first. Holly's going to make the 220 mark first, so she's going to finish first. So Holly finishes first. And there you go. So when it comes to word problems, you have two options. You either change the scale like I did, okay, or you zoom out. You can keep zooming out until you see a clear picture. Now again, this graph, this is hard. It doesn't make sense, but you can see where they crisscross. If you click, you can find that point that way too. I just want to get a graph that made sense to us. Okay. So be aware of how to use Desmos. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you in class.